You're watching Byline Wilmington on CBS 10 WILM. Here's your host, Don Ansell.
And we're back. Our guest this morning in our first segment is Rick Hairston. He's the founder of Carolina Canines for Service. They train and play service dogs. And joining us for this segment is Ed Salau, who is a Iraq War veteran, and he is partnered with Gabriel, who is a service dog. This is Gabriel, and Titus is over here, if we're on a wide shot now. So, Ed, you served our country in Iraq. Tell us briefly what happened there.
I went to Iraq with the North Carolina National Guard. We were headquartered right here out of Wilmington. And in November 15th of 2004, my patrol was ambushed. Insurgents hit my Bradley fighting vehicle with a rocket-propelled grenade. That RPG penetrated the hull. It took off my left leg, and it took off my gunner's right leg.
And how did you, and I know there was a long journey coming back, hospitalization and then rehab, I would imagine.
Sure.
And how did you eventually hook up with Carolina Canines for Service?
Well, it was a few years after I was hurt. And my congressman, Walter Jones, and his family are dog lovers. His mom met someone who knew Carolina Canines, and they knew they were wanting to help a veteran that could use a dog. So rather than want a dog, I was trying to find them a disabled veteran to take a dog. But once you meet Carolina Canines, you learn what they do, what the dogs do.
Right. So that concept wasn't, you didn't have that concept for yourself. That didn't.
No. Don, I'm not disabled.
Right. Right, I hear you. Well, I asked Rick in the first segment if he had pets growing up. Did you?
I sure did.
Yeah, and so you were a dog. You had
Sure.
this thing with dogs, as a lot of us do. So so you hooked up with Rick, and tell us about meeting Gabe.
Oh, that was a great part of it. Everybody else, even my coworkers, had met Gabriel before I met Gabriel. When I finally met him, the day he was placed with me and I started training, I think Rick will agree, it was a perfect match instantly.
It was.
Eye contact.
Yeah?
If you were to look into Gabe's eyes, you'd see there's so many things happening behind his eyeballs, and he keeps me on my toes.
You got each other right away.
I think so.
It's so interesting.
He's smarter than me, and he's not afraid to tell me.
So, Rick, how did you set up that first meeting?
Well, the first meeting, Ed actually came to the office to start his team training. He had not met Gabriel up to that point. And so when they walked through the door, we were waiting, and it was a matter of introducing them at that point and letting the professor do what he knows how to do at that point.
The professor being?
Yeah, he's got his professor mode on right at this particular point in time.
Rick said off camera that Gabriel reminds him of this professor and his sister, very professorial looking and with his little beard. He is a Labradoodle.
Correct.
That's a poodle and a Labrador.
Exactly.
It's an unusual mix, isn't it?
It's an unusual mix. It's becoming more popular, and it's one that we've found that we've used quite often in service work. They've got the intelligence of the lab and the intelligence of the poodle. They shed considerably less than what a Labrador does. I did say shed less. Some people say they don't shed at all. Very seldom do you have one that does.
So how much preparation is there with the person?
There's quite a bit. We go into things much more than what some other organizations do. We have an 11 or 12 page application that fills out, that tells us about their family scenario, who's living with them, how they look, doing that. It tells us about their physical needs. What is it?
But do you have a class with them, or?
Well, we basically go through a team training that's going to last 5 to 10 days.
With the person.
With the person.
Without the.
No, with the dog.
With the dog. So that's when they meet.
That's when they meet the dog. That's when they go into it, and there's 5 to 10 days. We have a manual.
But you haven't trained the person separately.
We have shipped out a manual to them that they can start reading ahead of time. And then when they come in, then it's a matter of putting the book that they've already been studying, now the physical part, now that we meld the two and blend.
And you talked about the bonding process with the fostering family and how you take that and you transfer it
Right.
eventually to the recipient. So, you said it was immediate, but was there some kind of process as well to the bonding?
Don, my process, I think, burned an ulcer in Rick's stomach.
Because?
It was stressful for him.
Because?
The week after my training and meeting Gabriel, literally, my training, I went right to the airport with Gabriel, and I had a cross-country trip for the next 7 or 10 days. So I was in Colorado and Arizona before I came back to North Carolina.
With
Gabriel. So Rick, not only is it the training process equipping me to handle my service animal and Gabe to handle me, it's access laws, it's what are my rights, what are Gabe's rights, what's everybody else's rights. So the training process is pretty in-depth, and then he throws me on an airplane and I was gone.
How much does routine figure into his daily performance?
Routine is everything now.
It is.
We're at 3.5 years Gabe and I have been together, and it's almost as he can sense my alarm is going to go off on the clock half a second before it happens. It's just he's fine-tuned.
So my question was, can he anticipate? He does sort of anticipate.
And it's important because when you and I interact, the last thing you want me to do is continually talk and command him. So now that we've got a routine and he knows his role, we're going to get along just fine, and the dog won't be an interruption.
Does he ever surprise you?
All the time.
He does.
All the time. He's a dog.
Like, just...
I found out he loves hunting lizards in my yard. But the way I found that out was, launching himself off 5 steps high on my deck onto the concrete patio and gone at 100 miles an hour.
Wow.
Then he found it's a target-rich environment.
Right, right. But if you called to him when that impulse happened, what would take precedent?
Well, Gabriel's got 2 modes, basically, is the way I look at it. One, he's working and serving me 100% of the time. When I'm with you now, when I'm at work, when I'm in a restaurant.
Right.
If a gecko was to run across that table while he's working,
right,
in any of those scenarios, he's going to ignore the lizard. When he's home and playing and relaxed, I'm going to just be honest and say he'll get the lizard or 2 before he gets the remote for me to change the channel on ESPN.
Gotcha. I'm not on duty right now. I'll do it, but I'm not on duty right now. We're going to come back with more with Ed Salau and Rick Hairston right after this. Stay with us.